Hello, 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 and welcome to today's episode of Her Version. This podcast is dedicated to sharing stories of struggle to triumph, a platform that allows individuals to tell their truth in order to inspire and uplift others. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria. Let's jump right in. Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Her Version. For those of you that are already jumping on live, thank you so much. If you could share this out into the world, we would so appreciate it. I have Miss Leisa Reid with me here today. The Her Version platform is built on storytelling and the understanding that many times our greatest learning experiences come from listening to other people's stories. So the amazing Leisa Reid, by her late 30s, she had reestablished her career and love life after a major economic turndown and a divorce. Leisa Reid knew there was more to life and decided to become a professional speaker at the age of 40. She started at ground zero with no gigs, no clients, no email list. So we all know how that is. She has now booked and delivered over 600 talks. What? Leisa Reid coaches entrepreneurs now to get booked and stay booked. She is passionate about teaching you how to get your talk ready to rock so that you can attract your ideal clients through speaking. In this session, she will share the number one secret she uses to get speaking gigs. Welcome, Leisa Reid. How are you?
Oh my gosh, so excited to be here and live with all of you today too. This is so fun.
Yes, thank you for hanging out with us. I so appreciate women who understand the importance of getting on stage, podcasting, sharing your story, and just getting in people's faces. I think that's one of the biggest issues that female entrepreneurs have, is just staying recluse, and just they have this brilliance and they have just this awesome stuff in their head and their mind, and they're educated in all the things, and then they're afraid to jump on stage.
Yep, I call it speaker's kryptonite in my world because I'm talking to speakers all the time, right? So there's all these thoughts that creep up. They're quiet, certainly not what we're posting on Facebook or any social media. It's a very quiet voice that sounds like, what if XYZ, or well, I need to do more XYZ, or they'll never, let me do XYZ. All these like little kryptonites are just flying around in our minds and keep us from sharing our brilliance.
Yes, 100%. I love that we're talking about this because literally just this morning, I held my mastermind. I run a all-female mastermind every morning, 10 a.m. Eastern, for those that want to join us. And one of the ladies in there is in a field. She's doing her thing. But she announced to all of us today that she wants to be a speaker. And I had no idea that she wanted to be a speaker because she seems to be a little more like reserved and quiet, but she wants to be a motivational speaker. She has like this burning desire inside of her. And she was coming up with all these excuses as to why she's not doing it yet, why she's not talking about it, and all of this stuff. And I was like, girl, you can't worry about what you have. Like, you don't have any speaking gigs. Nobody knows about all this stuff. You have to like step into that role of who are you? If you are a speaker, then you have to be a speaker. What do speakers do? And I kind of just went down this thing. So I just think that this is awesome. I'm totally going to share this with her when we're done. So great timing on your end.
Yay, divine timing. Hello.
Yes. So I want to ask, before we dive into all the awesomeness that you do now currently in your world, I love to dive deep into the past, because I think sometimes, especially around this age, like 30s, 40s, 50s, we kind of like start stepping into who we are, and people don't always necessarily recognize that we've been through some stuff. Yeah. We've like gone through some stuff to get to where we are. We didn't just like poof, the magic dragon. So I want to ask about stories. If you could share a story, any story you want, the story that you would say changed your entire life, kind of the pivot, and what you learned from it.
So many things, but for the purpose of our conversation today, one story that came to mind was that time when I was in my 30s and on paper, everything looked perfect, right? Quote unquote. House, family, beautiful neighborhood. We had real estate. We had all the things, everything was set up, a business. And then through lots of circumstances, it did come crashing down. It was like I would say that 2x4 to the face, like, oh my gosh, wait, how did I lose sight of this? How did I get to this point? And not so much what did I do wrong, but that was part of it. Like, did I do this? What mistakes did I make? And we can get into that. Or I don't know if I blame myself too much. I don't think I blame myself, but I also want to take responsibility for my part in my life, right? Obviously, it'd be really easy to blame everyone else and everything else. But no, I did need to go, okay, what did I miss? Where did I miss? So that I don't do it again. And luckily, I was introduced to this personal development company prior to that, but I definitely was not ready for it. I know we're going to talk about personal development later, probably, but I got this phone call, and this was kind of right after my husband and I had separated. And he's like, hey, we've got this workshop. It could have been called anything. I didn't even care what it was called, to be honest. I was like, sounds good. I could probably use that. What am I trying to shift? Oh, I don't know. Love and money. That's it. Nothing else. Those are the only two things I'm working on. Like two of the biggest pillars of our life, right?
No big deal.
In a weekend, please. And then I'll be fine and just be on my way. And what I discovered in that workshop was really a key pattern that continues to come up even now, even after years and years of not only diving into my own personal development work, but teaching it. And of course, I see it a lot clearer now. But it's really that not enoughness, that nothing is enough. Nothing. I used to call it the bottomless pit of recognition, like this, just, I cannot have enough awards or enough love, enough success, all the things. And that willingness to really look at those parts of myself was the beginning of the rest of the story of like, wow, okay, where did I let my needs go? Where did I let my wants, my desires get hidden, not by anyone else, but by myself? And how do I want to go moving forward? So that really shifted how I went into my next relationship. And now I've been with my husband, my second husband, for 12 years. And it's a really different relationship because I am different. And I attracted someone different, and how I have my business is different. So it definitely was not an overnight success, but it is definitely a journey.
100, definitely. Did you say that your ex-husband is the one that introduced you to the course?
No.
Who introduced you to the course?
A friend of mine.
The program.
Yeah, a friend of mine that I had known for a few years, and he just called me one day and said, hey, what do you think? Are you ready to come into the course now? And I was like, yes, I am. Sign me up. But he had been calling me, poor guy, had been trying to get me in this class for 6 years. I had every single reason not to do it. And I did end up working for that company several years later, after I'd done a lot of the different, workshops. I fell in love with it, had major success, and turned my life around completely financially. And of course, met the new love of my life, my now current husband. So it was a major game changer.
Wow. Yeah. The first program I took was Landmark, the Landmark Forum.
Yep.
And the reason I asked about the X is because my son's father is the one that introduced me to it. We weren't together. Like,
yeah,
he's just
and I'm still friends with my ex-husband, and we had, I call like the friendliest divorce in California. I mean, we're very lucky. And he's a great parent, and I consider him, us still having a friendship, but we had our different paths. And so even though it was one of the hardest times in my life, I'm certainly grateful for the experience and the lessons that I needed to learn to become more of who I truly am.
Yeah, that's awesome. Can you talk more on you recognizing and stepping into what you needed to take on as your responsibility with the things that were going on? Because I think that that's one of an issue, especially when you're first jumping into personal development, that you get hit with that and you're kind of like, yeah, no, that's not a thing. And a lot of people steer away from it at that point. And that's pretty far up in the beginning of it, is you have to like take blame for all the things, even if it makes no sense. So can you tell us a little more about your journey with that?
Oh my gosh, it's such a deep dive, that whole subject, because there's so many layers that I have stepped through to be willing to do that and to see it and to even hear my own victim type thinking, to see when I'm in it, to step away and go, okay, I know I am so attached to this other person being wrong. I'm so attached to it being someone else's fault. And I really, really, really want to blame them. And it's them who should change. Like that's the kind of languaging of you're like, we're circling. We know we're getting close to
Yes.
this. And to me, it is one of the most courageous qualities a person can have, is to go, yeah, I see that my mind is saying that. I can even feel the feelings. I can see how I'd be so drawn to it being someone else's fault or they need to change. And to almost like separate myself or separate yourself from that thought, that feeling. Like, yes, it's me. And there's this other part of me that says, wow, my mind is really crafty. Holy smokes. Okay. What else is possible? What else is true? How can I bring my higher conscious self? How can I bring my ideal thinking, this other being, my spiritual being, to this scenario? And I don't want to say like be synthetic about it, like fake it, but go like truly. Because you don't want to like necessarily allow other people to, treat you like crap. That's not what I'm saying. And it is a fine line there where we can get a little, I say, I'll say, don't use your knowledge of self, awareness of self against yourself,
Ooh, yes.
Yeah. So sometimes we can get into those kind of traps. So for me, I would just say it was a journey. It wasn't an overnight thing. But it's something I really respect. And I like being around other people like that. In our circle, we'll call it FIGs, like friends in growth, like someone who can keep you accountable and accept you for who you are. And you can work through those pieces, those things, those faults, and be forgiven and move forward with grace. Like that's a powerful relationship to be in.
Yes, definitely. Not being enough.
I know a lot about that.
How do you function? How have you gotten to, how are you sitting here today, right now, trying to tell us that you sometimes have thoughts and have dealt with this in the past, not being enough, but then also have spoken in front of 600 audiences? How are you doing that?
Well, like anything, right? The beliefs that we have, when we call it limiting beliefs, aren't always limiting. There's benefits and consequences to a lot of the beliefs that we have. So it got to the point where like, okay, let me recognize the goodness in that not enoughness feeling. Because if I just completely felt satisfied all the time and never needed more, well, then I probably wouldn't have 600 speaking engagements, right? So it's about knowing yourself enough to go, okay, I see how this system is created. Let me then now be more intentional about how I use it. So I love moving forward. I love growing and evolving and challenging myself. And that I am very enthusiastic about that. Again, I like being around other people like that too. That's why I like hanging around you. It's like, what else? What else is possible? But could I leave behind the shame and the doubt and the, oh, I don't know, and kind of being small about it and dreaming tiny? Yes. Like those ones can sit in the back seat, like, oh, we don't need you here at this party right now. So again, it's also for me, knowing the signs of when am I in it, what's going on, surrounding myself with support. Like even in like I coach my clients, I have a coach myself, you coach people, because I know that once I start to feel in that like self-doubt, I can almost feel the train slowing down and it's stopped in the station and we're not going anywhere. And I like to be on that speeding bullet train. Like I want to be on the bullet train. I want to be on that train because I like to move fast. And I like to create. And I think it's exciting. So that's why then, I need to bring in some support because there's something going on that I'm not clear on. I'm doubting something. well, which way, this way or that way? There's something, some kind of resistance. So I like to be like a very intense resistance detector. Like, oh, there's gunk. I call it, have you ever been on a slip and slide, Sabrina?
Yes.
Yeah. Super fun, right? If anyone has kids, got that slip and slide out in the summer. Well, if there's rocks and dirt on the slip and slide, it is not a fun party. Like that is not good. So
that's the worst.
Yeah. So that's like the resistance. I go like, we need to get all the rocks and dirt off the slip and slide so you can whoosh, like slide through. So same for me. I think, okay, I think I got a rock on my slip and slide. I need to change that. So I'll use that, all those different types of conversations to remind myself where I'm at and how to get out of it.
Absolutely. When you think back as far as when you were in your challenging times or struggling times, and they pop up all the time, right? It's not like we just had one.
Yeah.
They ebb and flow out of your life or out of our lives consistently. What, in your own personal experience using your journey, what are some of the steps you take? Because right now we have an audience listening to us, and some of them are right now literally in the middle of a challenge. They're in the middle of a struggle. They're sitting in some darkness right now. And they're like, awesome, love that you're super excited and pumped about your life. However, you don't understand my situation. My situation is different.
Right.
What are some things that you have done throughout your journey to kind of go from the darkness to the light? Mental, emotional, physical, reading, watching, programs, coaching, whatever. What are the things you have personally done?
Oh my gosh, so many things. But I one of the first things that was a real game changer for me, and I remember learning about the law of attraction and going, oh, I've been doing that. I just didn't know there was a name for it, right? And I got recommended this book. I actually grabbed it because I knew we might talk about this. It's called I'm Rich Beyond My Wildest Dreams. I am. And it's by Thomas and Penelope Polly. I'll hold it up really quick.
Wow, that's a title.
Yep. So now this came out around maybe the time of The Secret. It was like that conversation was really popular. And I read The Secret and I like that too. But this book, what I loved about it is a very like how to, like, go grab a pen. Okay, write this. Okay, now write further. And it taught me really easily how to think in the law of attraction. Because we're always attracting, right? But we're not doing it consciously or intentionally. And this was like, no, if you do it like this, all of a sudden you can start to attract things quicker and faster or more easily. And so I really was interested in that. So that was a big game changer for me. I remember just like instantly creating, I manifested my dining room chairs. And this is a bunch of years ago, but I still use what I learned in that book today. So that's one. I will also say that I was very lucky to be dipped in a loving environment. I had a really, really strong relationship with both my parents, but my dad specifically was a hypnotherapist growing up. So just in normal dinner conversations were about our subconscious mind and thinking and stuff like that. So even though I was younger or was challenged with things, I'd be like, okay, I knew there was something bigger than just me as a human. So no matter where you are in your circumstances, because I've been in $1 million in debt, I've been divorced, I've been in down, fetal position. So wherever you are, listener, we've all had challenges. But we're all, if there's some kind of connection you have spiritually with whomever, whatever you want to call that, we are spiritual beings. And it's like, what's true about yourself? Like, I am light, I am love, I am, what is that about yourself? And I think that's very comforting. It's a belief that you can tap into no matter where you are. If you're in the car, if you're, at the lowest point, you can still tap into that without any software tools, education or what, like you still can have that.
I love it.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Things, but yeah, there's so many things. One thing I would say is, are you familiar with the drama triangle?
No.
Oh, okay. Okay. So the drama triangle is super simple. Well, no, it's a super simple model that all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, that's everywhere in my life. Oh my gosh, I'm all over it. So if you think like the triangle, it's also called like the victim triangle, maybe. So it's like victim, persecutor, or like villain, and the rescuer or the hero, right? So you've got victim, villain, hero. If you're any of those roles when you're talking about whatever you've got going on, you're in the drama triangle. How do you get out? You take 100% responsibility for yourself. Because if you're under 100%, you're probably victim. If you're over 100%, you're probably hero. We can literally be on all three. We can gravitate to all three in one sentence. Like you're like, and then they did this, and I just think they're so mean to me, and it's not fair. So next time I'm gonna go and punch him in the face. You know what I mean? Like we can literally like in all three, we could be in all three parts in a second.
Well, where are we supposed to be?
Out of it. We don't want to get back out. And that's where you take 100% responsibility. So it's not taking too much. Like when we have codependency tendencies, we're taking too much responsibility. Well, let me help them. And I know with the addiction and things, that's a whole, right? We just have so many patterns that we need to undo. So that can be tempting. But what if I don't help them? What if then something horrible is going to happen to them? Then they need me, right? So it's so seducing. So taking 100% responsibility is like, know myself, love myself. Like where do I need to take responsibility for what I've done, what I've said? Okay, time to admit that maybe you're not perfect and maybe you didn't act in the nicest. Maybe you did a little snotty talk, maybe you did a little, sass in your response that warranted something, That's not easy for people to be honest about their faults, but not take too much responsibility.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think is the number one lesson that you've learned about life?
Oh my gosh. From my dad, do what makes your heart sing, 100%.
Aww.
And like what you were talking, it's so simple. You were talking about your client you thought, oh, maybe she's I'm so kind of surprised she wants to be a motivational speaker. Like there's something inside of her that probably got shut down a quadrillion years ago that made it not okay for her to share this burning desire within her. There's some message, there's something. And to me, that is gold, baby gold. Like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to hear what this person has to say, because it's probably been building and building, just like an amazing song where it starts to crescendo. Yeah, like a Pink Floyd. I just saw a Pink Floyd tribute band. They were amazing. So it's like this crescendo of, like just yummy. Oh my gosh, let's let it out. I say, come out of the speaker closet. Like we need to get you out of the closet, right? So,
wow.
So exciting. And when you're really speaking of what makes your heart sing, well, then you're going to attract the people who are picking up what you're throwing down, right? That's where it gets really exciting. Everyone doesn't need to love you. Don't worry about that. But who can you help the most? And when you share what is in your heart, you're going to attract those people.
Definitely.
Just like what you do. Yeah. That's what you're doing.
So, Miss Leisa Reid here on stage. I just want to highlight the people who are watching live. By the way, we have quite a few people watching live. So thank you so much for being here, hanging out with us. We always ask for you to share. So if you want to share the video that you're watching right now so that we can reach more people, we so appreciate it. If you are watching on the replay, make sure you hashtag replay wherever you are watching us at so we can send you some love. But Leisa, we have talked about not being enough. And then we've also at the same time talked about how you have been on so many stages. Like you've talked to so many audiences just since you were 40, which I just think is so freaking awesome. You started with nothing, no list, no gigs, no clients, no nothing. Yep. And you are where you are. And I want to ask, knowing all of that, living the life that you're living yourself, what does success mean to you?
That's a really juicy question. And I do believe it depends on the person. For me, it's the freedom of time, of which technically we always have freedom of time, right? But really feeling like I decide what I do and I'm very intentional about who I spend my time with and what I do with my time. And to me, that freedom is a beautiful thing. And then there's also the financial backing to have that freedom, right? To go, okay, I've got the things in place that need to happen where I'm doing what makes my heart sing. I get paid really well for it and they get a lot of value and I'm contributing to the world. Because really, if we go, okay, well, what's behind all that? My goal and mission is to raise the consciousness of our entire planet, right? How does one do that? I believe if you do what makes your heart sing, you give the gift that you have been given, right? I do believe we all have gifts that we've been given. And if you're in a position where you can give that gift back to others, that raises the consciousness of everyone, in my opinion. And so I'm down to play that game for the rest of my life.
I love it. So cool. What would you wish for?
Oh my gosh, what would I wish for? I love helping people come up with their message. I call it Get Your Talk Ready to Rock, right? To me, that is one of my funnest activities that I get to do on a regular basis. I get invited into someone else's speaker closet, basically. And we get to, I've never used this metaphor before, but why not? Literally pick out like your best speaker outfit, your best messaging, your brilliance, your stuff. Oh my God. To me, that is so exciting. And because we're literally birthing that baby. And I call myself sometimes like a talk doula, talk midwife, talk OBGYN, call me whatever you want. We're getting that baby birth, right? Like, and to me, that is just, if I could do that the rest of my life, and help people with that, that'd be really awesome.
That's awesome. I have a personal question for BTU. Sure. When somebody is in the realm of speaking, do you recommend a speaker to have more than like 2 topics or 2, I guess, talks? What is a good amount that somebody should have just to kind of like under their belt where they could just be notified tomorrow that, hey, you're filling in for somebody the next day?
I love that question. I get that a lot. And for someone who's starting in the speaking industry or starting to become a speaker, I say, absolutely start with 1. Sure. Would it be great if you had 3? Yes. But 1 perfected where you, I say perfect, you know what I mean? Like not where you feel really good about it. Let's just say, is gold. That's gold. And again, we can kind of get into that. Oh, not enough. Like, oh, I don't have enough. So I only have 1 talk. So I shouldn't be a speaker. Oh, I don't have enough talks. Right. No, like do not let anyone tell you that you can be a speaker with only 1 talk. Now, as you get more seasoned and you do that talk, let's say 100 times, right? Like, let's say you do that talk 100 times, you are going to naturally evolve to add another talk or two, because you're like, oh, I learned some things along the way, or I've expanded my business, or I've added a product or a service, or I just have this other message that's really dying to come out. Listen to that voice, right? Versus like, oh, well, the industry says you need to have 3 to 7 talks. No, just what is the best thing for your business? And this is why I like to work with people like pretty intimately, one-on-one or like in a mastermind setting, because we can get so busy creating stuff that we don't actually do anything. Have you ever had that? I'm like, stop creating content. Go sell the content you have. Go do the talk that you don't. And so that's why I say it depends. Like, it's nice to have 3, but honestly, the one I give the same one multiple times, they don't ask for other ones. So if you have too many choices, guess what? That's it. Like, let's say if it's 3, that's 3 PowerPoints, 3 memorizing it or practicing it, 3, you're tripling your work.
Yeah.
So, but once you've got one down and you've done it a bunch of times, then yeah, add one, sure. Add another one.
That's fantastic. I love that you're saying that. I love that you're saying only one, because I have a handful that I can pull from. So that actually makes me feel like really relieved, because only maybe 2 of them are like really, really good.
Right. So that's where it's like, I go, okay, really drop into like, what's the core message that really provides a ton of value to the audience, which I'm sure you do, because you're like amazing speaker, and provides a ton of value to my business. And I think that's the part, especially really heart-centered speakers, often women, provide massive value to the audience, but forget to provide massive value to their business, because we're so trained to give. Oh no, I'll go last. Well, whatever you want. I don't care. Oh, it's all about you. I'm just here to give to you. And you got to give to your business.
Yeah.
You have to.
Yeah, definitely. And I see that all the time. And I love how you are. Ooh, what did you just mention? Oh, it just slipped my mind. I didn't write it down. You just mentioned, it goes along with the giving and not doing all the work. So sometimes we stay so busy. I see this all the time. Like they're so busy. They're doing so many things. They're working 9-10 hours a day in all the areas, but then they're forgetting to ask for money.
Yeah.
Like they're forgetting that like the only reason that they can do what they're doing and they're in the industry that they love is if they have a cash flow coming in. And they stay so busy doing all these things and creating all this goodness, and then they forget to do that ask.
Yeah, I call it having your receiving muscle in atrophy, right? Like we are literally just not used to flexing that muscle, especially as women. Now, and I don't mean 100% across the board, but there's a lot of messages we get as kids to take care of others.
Yeah.
And then naturally you don't think necessarily of taking care of yourself because it's selfish or rude or whatever.
Yeah, definitely.
It's uncomfortable.
And I think a lot of it also just general with women, when we're working and then we're also taking care of the kids and we're also taking care of the house and we're also washing the car. And there's so many things that we just do because we're loving, caring, giving people, that it just kind of goes right in that same cycle of this is just part of being a human, being a woman, human.
Women are so resilient.
Yeah.
So resilient. And then it can be to a fault of like, I always say, too much water, you're going to drown. Like, I don't know, like how much water do you need? Just always keeping in check and keeping in balance. Not bad. I don't mean don't give to people or don't help your family. Of course you do, but you're right. We just get you're like, well, just pile one more thing on me. I can take it. Like women are strong and amazing.
Yes.
Men are strong and amazing too.
Yeah.
I love men too.
So same. So speaking to women right now who are listening, obviously, if they're still hanging on here, hello, those of you that are watching live, thank you so much for being here. They're obviously resonating with all of the goodness that you're sharing. So I want to ask, women who are struggling in this space as far as writing their speaking gig, getting speaking gigs, what would be some advice? What would be a couple of nuggets of stuff that you could give us to kind of help us forward a little bit?
Yeah, there's 5 things you need to have if you're going to put your, foot out there in the speaker world. These are super easy, so I'll just go through them really quick. But number 1, you got to have a professional headshot. Okay. Like not from the 80s. It's got to be like not from pre-pandemic. Got to upgrade it now. Everyone's out. You got to, kind of get that taken care of because you're going to get asked for that. Number 2, you're going to need a professional bio as well. Also going to get asked for that. You got to think this is all stuff to like get you out of that speaker closet. Like, okay. And I have had clients who really struggle with the bio because guess what? You're going to get asked for. You're going to get asked to brag about yourself and say all the amazing things you do. And sometimes we're like, I don't know. I haven't done anything. I haven't done anything that amazing. Yes, you have. Yeah, yes, you have. You have done something amazing. Otherwise, you wouldn't be wanting to be a speaker. So the 3, 4, and 5 all kind of go together. The third one, obviously, you need to have a title for your talk, right? And I'm like saying, I tell my clients all the time, let's do the grocery store test. If someone's standing in line next to you at the grocery store and they find out you're a speaker and they're like, oh my God, what do you speak on? I want you to be able to say it in the grocery store line. I want you to look it up. It can't be long and complicated. They go, oh, ooh, that sounds cool. That's what we're looking for. Okay. Fourth thing, you need to have a description. Like if you're on Netflix and you're looking through like, what show should I watch? And you're like, oh, that one looks kind of good. That's the title. Let me see what it says. That's the description. So then you're going to like hit play or add it to your favorites, or you're going to be like, no, that's not for. So we want them to add you to the favorites. They want you to hit play, right? So we got to have that description that's enticing. And then the last one, 5, sorry, I'm on opposite with the StreamYard. Your learning points. You want to have usually 3 to 5 learning points that tell them what you're going to tell them without telling them. A little bit of a smoke and mirrors there, but you need to be able to make it enticing so that the audience wants to come to your talk. So those are the 3 components we work on in the Get Your Talk Ready to Rock is the title, description, learning points. You just have to have that. If you don't have that, you're going to stay stuck in the speaker closet because you're not ready. You don't have clothes on. You're not going to come out of the closet if you don't have clothes on. Like, right? Unless you're, have certain beliefs about that. So, which, that's okay too. But most speakers I know wear clothes. So you need to be ready to be ready.
Oh, that is great. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that. Fantastic. Totally makes sense. So it's been pretty obvious throughout our little chat here what you do, but I would love for you to dive in a little bit deeper as far as what your business exactly is and where people can find you.
Absolutely. So getspeakinggigsnow.com. Gigs with an S because you want more than one, right? You got to have more than one. Aww. And yes, I will say, and I got to remember, Sabrina, to share my number 1 tip of how to get speaking gigs. So I'll do that. Just okay. Just putting that out there. I will share that. Okay. So if you head on over to getspeakinggigsnow.com, there's some goodies there for you. There's some 5 top tips to get more speaking gigs, all kinds of stuff. Why did I start it and what is it? I don't actually get gigs for you because I believe in empowering you to get gigs for the rest of your career. You don't need me the rest of your career, right? There's some strategies and tips and lots of shortcuts and VIP passes where it's like, let's get you to the front of the line faster, easier, so that you can get your message out there and you can get on more stages and you can get booked for the rest of your career, no matter where you live, no matter what your industry is, even if you change industries, even if you add another talk, doesn't matter. That should not matter, especially now with virtual. Oh my gosh. I mean, I've been doing this business before the pandemic, but now there's so many, a bajillion opportunities for you. But you might have blinders on and you're not actually seeing them because you're not ready. So it's all about like, let's get you ready to then you can go and say, hey, I do this. Let me at them. That's what I want you. That's where I want everyone I work with to be at. Like, where's the mic and how long do I have? Like, that's what I want you to be thinking. For me, that's very exciting. Okay. So You are, I want to share that number one secret. All right. So here it goes. I'll give a little backstory first. So yes, I started as a speaker when I was 40, right? I was hired by that personal development company, that the one I had taken the workshops with, and found my limiting beliefs. And I started teaching for them and training and business development. Well, my first year at that company, they said, okay, we've been around for 30 years. The best way we get clients to take our workshops is go out and teach them about mindset and give them an experience of their thinking and all that. So just go out and do that. And I said, okay. So I booked 83 speaking engagements in my local area that first year. Now, and I didn't think there was anything special. I'm just doing what they told me to do. I got head down, go. I got my goal. I know what I'm doing. Meanwhile, I had started an organization called OC Speakers Network. It's still around. We just meet virtually now. OC stands for Orange County. I live in California. And along my journey, these speakers are saying, how did you get that gig? How did you get that gig? How did you? So by like the 50th person who asked me, I was like, okay, I guess I'm doing something different, special. I don't know. I guess there's a need here. I don't think it's that hard, but let me just take a step back and take a look. And I started literally cataloging, like, what did I say on the call? What did I put in an email? What kind of activities was I doing on a regular basis? Like, where were the shortcuts? And that's what I delineated, the 7 key components. And that's the 7 key components in my book. It's the 7 key components in my academy. It's in my curriculum. I mean, because it's like, if you do these 7, you're probably going to be booked forever. I'm not kidding. You can really do it. But it took some time for me to figure that out.
Awesome.
So, yeah. Now, the number one secret that I say to getting yourself booked consistently is something I call having a speaker soulmate system. And that came from that OC Speakers Network. The whole reason I started the group was because I wanted more speaking gigs, and I thought, I'll connect and collaborate with other people. We'll bring in a guest speaker. It'll be super fun. We'll exchange leads, and we'll just enjoy it. So I met this gal. This is almost 10 years ago, because I'm going to be 50 in January. Anyway, and so we start helping each other and like exchanging information, like, oh, I spoke here. Let me introduce you. I spoke here. Let me introduce you. She has referred me over 100 speaking engagements. I mean, probably more than 100 now. I stopped counting. So that means I didn't have to do any cold calling. I didn't have to like look them up. I didn't have to find them. She already did all that work. And I, returned the favor, of course. And people think sometimes, I don't know if you find this, Sabrina, when you're coaching your folks, but that you have to meet thousands of people and do a million things and meet more people and meet more people and meet more people. I'm like, oh my gosh, it goes back to that best friend type of a relationship. When you find the 1, 2, maybe 3 people who are willing to play this game with you, you're going to be booked forever without cold calling. And that's what I do now. Thank you, Ilda. It is unreal and it's sustainable. My friend moved away. We used to both live in California. Now she moves in another state, but then we had the pandemic and then we both started speaking virtually. And it was like, oh my gosh, this could go on forever. And so I teach that. It's really powerful and it's easy. I think people just think it's got to be hard. It doesn't have to be hard. Business can be fun. It can be easy. You can have friendships. It can just be awesome.
Wilda's wondering if your first 83 gigs were paid.
Oh, that's such a great question, Wilda. I love that question. Guess what? I have a whole, I call it Monetize Your Speaking, is one of my modules in my curriculum and partly in my book, because what I do is I don't think about paid speaking like a speaking fee, a keynote speaker fee, or negotiating that on the front end. Because when you have a message that clearly leads to your call to action and attracts your ideal clients, ideally every speaking engagement is monetized, right? So when we look just at the speaker fee, not that that's what, I mean, I don't know if that's what you were thinking, but a lot of times I get this question and we worry so much about the speaker fee. We forget there's all this other money on the table. oftentimes a lot more money than the speaker fee.
Yeah.
So my goal is that we help you monetize it in the way that makes sense for your personality, for your audience, for your business, kind of where you are in this whole market. Where's your resistance? Remember the slip and slide? We don't want any rocks and dirt on that slip and slide, right? So if you've never sold before, like there's all these different components to it. But here's what I did. My first speaking gig. So, here I am, ground zero. Oh my gosh, what I'm going to do? I gotta speak to people. I don't know who to call. I don't know. I don't have any leads. What am I gonna do? So I call people that I know, of course. Call this gal I'd known for years. I said, hey, I've got this great thing. I had never done the speaking thing before. I've got this great, presentation. Do you have any ideas? Do you know where I could speak? And she's like, oh yeah. And she graciously, thank God, she graciously gave me this opportunity to speak in front of 10 women in a direct sales company. And they were like leaders in the company. And so I go into the conference room. It's like tiny, a little tiny room, 10 people. And I do my dog and pony show, right? And a bunch of people sign up. I'm like handing out a piece of paper with like, put your credit card, and they do. And I was like, oh my God, like, wow, I can't believe they said yes. Then they go to spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars over the years. So when I talk about monetizing, I am not kidding, right? It's like, how do we look beyond just kind of what's right there, that short term, what I call one night stand speaking, to long-term relationship type speaking, where you're monetizing on a long-term basis.
100. Were you right off the bat talking about speaking? Was that the long-term money you were getting? Or was
No, this is when I was signing up people I was doing the business development for the personal development company. So I was selling something that it was a weekend workshop. It was in person. It was something they couldn't touch or they didn't know so I'm like selling you electricity, but you don't know what electricity is, right? So it was actually one of the more hard, I would say, looking back now, I didn't know it was hard at the time, but I would say that's like one of the harder ways to sell. And then handing out a piece of paper, they put their credit card on there. It was, that's actually not an easy thing to do.
Yeah.
That was the only way I knew how to do it. So I just did it. Now
That's
it's a lot easier.
Yeah. And I will say, to Wilda's point, or to Wilda's question, and back you up on that, as far as there's so much more money on the table. I mean, if you show up at 100% for your audience and you give a killer speech, like what's inside, like what's the point of being a speaker if you're not going to give 100? But if you show up 100 on that stage, the right people will be attracted to you, your brand, your personality, whatever you're selling, and will purchase. Every single time I have spoken, I'm pulling in, 3, 4, 5, sometimes big ticket sales on the back end of that, just because people resonated with what I was saying.
Yeah. And that's, I go into like oftentimes if someone sees me speak, I'll delineate what I call the speaker monetization formula, where you start to really figure out like, what would that look like for your business? Like, how do you start to decide, is this something that I should be doing? Because like, if I did a couple gigs a month, like how much of my bottom line would that change? What's the potential there? It's the quickest cash grab. It literally can be the quickest way to attract your ideal clients and to take that pressure off of that, inconsistent cash flow, right? That a lot of people, entrepreneurs, are involved with. Like, how do you create that consistent cash flow without selling your soul to the devil either? It's like, how do you do it in a way that feels really yummy, feels really good? Like, to me, I guess probably because I've done it so many times, I don't even sweat it because I'm such a, it's going to sound boring, but yes, I am so like consistent. I just keep dropping the bucket. And when you are consistent, you end up getting consistent results.
Yeah.
It's not the sexiest thing in the world, but it works.
Yeah. Thank you for saying that. Because I think that's a big missing piece, is there's these highs and lows that, they're consistent for 5 days, maybe a week, and then they're not pulling in So they're like, "Meh." So then they
When you
fall
start
back
questioning
down.
yourself, yeah, like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, it wasn't me. Maybe I should throw my whole talk out. It didn't go over well. I'm like, whoa, I don't know. Like, there's so many factors. Let's just hold on a
Yeah.
second. Let's just time out and see what does need to change. Do you have enough data even to know if it was your offer? Was it the right fit? Was it like so many factors? So that's why I also help with my clients. So it's like, we'll take a look at like, what's the event? So instead of regretting it after, we go, okay, let's look at the event now. You've got it on the calendar. Okay, did you ask this, and this? All these things. Did you get, how can you leverage it the best? What's available to you? What's not available to you? Like, and really game plan so that you can start to build that muscle. And then be like, okay, no matter what I'm thrown at, oh, you can't sell. Okay, I have a plan for that. Oh, you can sell. I have a plan for that. Like, oh, you're like, you have 30 minutes, you have 60 minutes, you have 45 minutes, you have 20 minutes. Like, I want you to have a plan for all those things, but you can do all that ahead of time.
Yeah.
But not if you don't have experience.
Yes, absolutely. For those that are watching and resonating with everything that you're saying, where can people find you online and follow you?
Oh, probably LinkedIn is a great place. I'm on Facebook as well. I'm pretty easy to find because of the way my name is spelled. But with Facebook, I think I am over 5,000. So, I mean, you can follow me. I can't correct. And then we have a Get Speaking Gigs Now Facebook group, an OC Speakers Network Facebook group. And but yeah, if you really want to like get my attention and say like, hey, Leisa, can we chat? Can we talk? LinkedIn is great because then you can put that note in, and say like, oh, I heard you on Sabrina Victoria's live podcast. Then we can chat.
I love it. What are your big dreams for your business?
I knew you were going to ask me that. It's so funny. I'm so involved. I'm entrenched right now in creating my vision for 2023. And even I have blocks sometimes, right? Like I'm like, wow, I'm grateful and blessed that everything I've dreamed of till now is pretty much, we're getting there. And so I'm like, wow, okay, what is next? What is next? I have been writing about this in my morning writings of I am open to receive. I am open to receive the next big thing that I'm supposed to do. Like, who am I supposed to serve? What else? How else can I serve? So I've literally been asking that question. So I'm open to receive.
I love it. Why do you do what you do? Tell us.
I mean, in a way, I feel like I've answered it, but it really is a pleasure of doing what makes my heart sing and giving that gift to other people, letting them know they can do it too. We just need some guidance on that. And it's my greatest pleasure to give birth to people's talks and like kind of help them with that birthing process and see the light up in their eyes of like, wow, oh, wow. Oftentimes they'll say like, oh, I did this brilliant thing. And I'm like, or they'll say, oh, Leisa, that's brilliant. I'm like, well, no, that's what you said. I didn't say it. I just asked you a question and you said it and I captured it and then I repeated it back to you. And that's why it feels so brilliant to you. Like,
oh, that's good.
I love that.
That's good. I thank you so much for being here.
I
thank you so much for hanging out with me. This has been fantastic. Do you have any closing thoughts as we wrap up?
Yeah, done is better than perfect. Like, get it done. Stop worrying about it being perfect. Let's go.
I love it. That's so true. That's exactly literally my mantra is just get it done. You can tweak it on the way.
Later.
Yeah.
You can always change it.
You can tweak it on stage, girl.
And you learn by being willing to just do it. And I don't know. I've made lots of mistakes. No one's died yet,
Yeah, definitely. I also think that people who are called to speak, it will just kind of like evolve out of you the way it's supposed to. You have to trust that. You have to trust yourself.
I consider talks to be living organisms. Yes. Like when we give birth to that talk, I know it's going to grow into something else. but it can't grow until you give it life. Like,
Yeah.
and by giving life, it's like going out there, saying it, practicing it, tweaking it, letting it kind of mature, getting into your unconscious competence. That's a process. You can't just flip the light on and it happens. It's you need to go do it. Like, you need to practice learning how to tie your shoes. Same thing. Just let it grow and evolve.
Definitely 100. This has been absolutely fantastic, Leisa. I so appreciate you being here. For those of you listening live and for those of you listening on the replay, if you resonated with Ms. Leisa Reid and all of the goodness that she shared today, make sure you check out her website at getspeakinggigs.com. That's gigs with an S because we're going for multiples.
Yeah.
I love that. We love to connect people here on this platform in order to continue to rise. Leisa Reid is predominantly on LinkedIn, so feel free to connect with her and drop into her DMs. She would love to talk to you. And then she also said she has some awesome things on her website. So the link is in the description wherever you're watching us below. So make sure you click the description or screenshot this so you can save it for later. But it's always so good when something is resonating with you, when somebody is pulling at you, when somebody is speaking your language, that is your sign to jump. That's your sign to jump. So one of the things we do here on her version, this podcast is dedicated to sharing. It's dedicated to sharing all of the goodness that so many females have all around the world, just goodness that they're willing to share, the secrets that they know. And it's, we can lead the horse to water. We can't make him drink. So it's your step now. So we brought Leisa here. She's hanging out with us. She shared all of the goodness that she has within her goodie bag. And you have to reach out. You have to reach out and connect. So thank you so much for joining us here on Her Version. This community is expanding every single day, and it's filled with females who are striving to do better than they did yesterday. For those of you that are new to this podcast and like content like this, make sure you hit that subscribe button, follow, like, and share. If you have an amazing story to share, be sure to reach out to me at hernation.life. I am your host, Sabrina Victoria, and I'm so grateful to be here sharing a platform that allows people to share their truth and inspire others.